one of those ideas that I keep having and kind of then discarding and then having again, and I'm not sure about, is how much stuff like, architecture and design really matters if these things can rewrite everything from scratch, given the same inputs, they can just recreate the system in a matter of minutes. Nearly all of my skills, that I have in software development and software design are about that optionality, the deferring the decision making, the compartmentalizing the problem. And certainly there's degrees to which we require that. But partly that's a defense against the human problem of it takes us a long time to type the replacement when we get something wrong. If it doesn't take the LLM a long time to type the replacement, how much does that stuff matter really? And I honestly don't know the answer to that. It feels like it still matters deeply to me, but that's just my human response to that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my feeling on this is that it matters more than ever. So your intuition, that matters more than ever, because despite the fact that you can rewrite these things from scratch in hours, days, or weeks.
Yep.
Yes, there was this talk from the CTO of a travel company, Travelobia. In fact, he was in a UK paper talking about his experience on this. And he said that they wrote a Haskell. He wrote a Drupal system that was like one of the primary kind of order entry and payment systems. In 6 weeks, they wrote their actual payment system over again in 6 weeks. So it just shows like to what extent you can actually do kind of these faithful rewrites in totally different languages. But there's still a lot of work. So I think you want to lower the cost of change. And so even though rewriting is an option, right? I mean, in general, you want small changes to have a small cost of change, not have to require rewriting the whole thing. And so it's been definitely my experience that, you want to get these things right so you can make small changes, you get fast feedback, right? Without having to rewrite the whole thing from scratch. I mean, that will, I can't comprehend a world where, it's, where rewriting the whole thing from scratch is the default option. Right? It's kind of like a worst case, which is not so bad anymore.
Yeah. So going back to this problem of the specification of what you want as an outcome, and the specification of what you want as your design heuristics for doing a good job. The technical input of the designer into that. Have you come up with any strategies or stuff like so? One of the conversations I've had with a few people is, it kind of feels like what people would really like was to be able to buy, the Gene Kim model of architecture or the Kent Beck model of architecture and plug it into their LLM and then get it to make some assumptions, or the Dave Farley one that's going to make you do more modular, more cohesive designs and stuff like that. Something like that. Do you think that's realistic? Do you have kind of canned stuff that you use to set the table stakes for what you consider to be good design?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, in fact, over the past 2 months, I've written one is like this kind of view of a Slack archive that we use for the conferences. And what came out of that after some hard lessons over the summer is that I want kind of these backend web servers that can also sort of look the same, right? They have views, they have a database stuff where there's all the database queries should live in one place, right? There should be no SQL strings anywhere, right? It should be, use these kind of closure-like data structures, that the views are, you can put everything in views until they get too big and then start splitting them up, right? Yeah, it is kind of a sensibility that I've now have a very strong preference for. At a certain point, HTMX starts showing up, right? And I've learned that the call the endpoint should look a certain way, right? Otherwise, they get all snarled up. Yeah, I think the whole notion of putting your sensibilities and architectural sort of styles kind of in a place where the LM can see it is definitely going to, in the small is the way I'm working. And then, obviously in a large system, you need even more those sensibilities. I love the there's one signal that came up in the Dora AI study that I love, which is that like you need kind of onboarding, right? The same things that you need
Yeah.
for humans, right? You need for AIs, right? And that absolutely seems to be the case.
Interesting. So,
So
so, so you onboard your AI with an architecture description.
yeah, yeah,
Here,
right.
here
And
are the rules of the road.
right, and like I think one of the patterns is so that it doesn't have to read the whole entire code base and understand what every kind of module does. You sort of document that in READMEs or these CloudMD files, right? And then the school of thought that says that is not dynamic enough. They're always out of date. You want to
Yeah.
regenerate it every time. Don't know, but
Yeah.
super interesting.
Yeah. Fascinating. This is a bit of a retread of the nervousness that I expressed earlier on, and certainly before we started when we were talking before we started recording, which is what we're talking about. Certainly from a human experience of programming, we're talking about some fairly advanced, sophisticated ways of thinking about design and development and those sorts of things. They are the sorts of things that generally take most developers a few years to learn and to get good at. I guess I'm replaying my nervousness that just the fast iteration, is that going to be enough to allow a junior programmer coming straight out of university today, starting working in AI first,
Uh,
to learn
I
those
don't know.
lessons? I do buy what you're saying about the fast feedback. I'm absolutely a believer in fast feedback, but I'm also nervous of the signal getting lost for the noise of
Yeah,
moving that quickly.
I guess I don't know, and I think in a time of tremendous uncertainty, it's impossible to know much right now. Right? And
Yeah,
to quote talk about Merton, who won the Nobel Prize for economics for option theory pricing, he said, "In a world of total certainty, right, you don't need options. You don't need to run experiments. You just know the right answer and you make the bet." Where in times like now, where no one knows anything, right? You need tons of options, and you have to create option-rich systems. And I do believe that one of the things that we talk in the book that Steve wrote about that I totally agree on is like maybe what needs to be taught has to change, right? Do we really need a whole
yeah,
semester on data structures?
yeah,
Probably not, right? I think that's going to be handled by the LM. But do we need more on like how to create option-rich systems, how to create fast, energetic feedback loops, software engineering? That I think we'll need more than ever. So, that's point number one. Point number two is like, boy, how teams even look like. I think we don't know. Like, I think I'm looking at this post that Adrian Kockoff wrote, that I kind of in my head kind of call it from no ops to no dev, right? And he wrote
Mhm.
12 years ago, developers laughed as we call DevOps no ops, right? And he wrote, we are now entering a world where we might call it no dev, right?
Yeah,
And it's probably
yeah,
as accurate as no dev is probably as accurate as no ops was.
yeah,
But, I think one of the things that Sri Balakrishnan and so many others talk about is like they feel like the coherent team that you need, it might not be 8 people, right? 6 developers, a product owner, and a UX person. It could be 2, right? As Kent Beck said,
yeah,
but it's the person with the problem and the person who can fix it, right? And they
yeah,
can work directly together, intermediated by an LLM. So that means that the shape of the teams and the size of the teams could be changing. Uh, I can find it very believable that a team of 2 people can go further and faster than a team of 8 ever could.
yeah,
Right. In fact,
yeah, yeah,
I had mentioned before our call that I was talking to some engineers on the frontier. They're saying kind of the rate of change is so high. Their rule is in many situations 1 developer per repo, because the coordination cost of having 2 developers working the same repo is so high that all you get are merge conflicts. Right.
yeah.
So it's don't know if that's forever, but it just shows that we're in a time where everything is potentially changing, right? But what
Yeah.
won't change? Modular architectures, fast feedback loops, right? That's what will keep us safe.
This clip was taken from my podcast, The Engineering Room with Dave Farley, a monthly podcast with some of the brightest minds in software engineering. You can find full episodes on all your favourite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. Your support helps us to bring you these regular episodes, so please leave your positive review on your preferred podcast platform to help us to continue to grow and bring you great guests and their insights. Thank you very much for listening.